Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Follow Your Road show. Hi, everybody. This is Allison Pickering, and I am your host, and I am very happy to be here today to share interesting people and interesting lives and interesting roads taken, roads less taken, roads uniquely taken, all that good stuff. And we have a very special guest today. He may be extra shrouded in mystery. We keep your fingers crossed, everybody, for the Wi-Fi to hold out for our special guest today who is joining us from Sweden. I have a co-host today. I want to welcome him. I've known him for many years. He himself has been a world traveler, and he's back here in California doing what he loves to do, which is to help people, advise people, and do their gorgeous heads of hair. And that is the Hierophant Mike Bonner. And welcome, Mike. How you doing today?
Hey, everybody. I'm good. How are you doing, Allison?
I'm well. Thank you very much. I appreciate your being here. And I'm so happy to welcome you and then welcome our mutual friend, someone that we both had the opportunity, you more recently, but me. I'll tell my little story because I had the great opportunity when COVID befell us all that a friend of ours who had been doing live tarot card reading sessions, he invited me to help him figure out how to do this in a virtual way. And when we got it together, we had a little group that was international. And our participant from Sweden is this gentleman who was just amazing. He is such a savant, meaning that he is so brilliant across the board, so thoroughly that you're like, how is it possible for a human to know all these things? When does he sleep? And it turns out that that's very seldom, but it's more now. And but he's always been a unicorn, shall we say, in all the virtuous, most charming and adorable ways, in my opinion. And so it's with great pride that I welcome someone who has shown me a person, allowed me to get to know, and I've never seen him in the flesh. It will be yet another opportunity to get to know him outside of the tarot and esoteric realm and the little bit of friendship that we formed around that when we have over the past 3 years participated in these online study groups, and that we have unpacked decks of cards and become each other's friends and confidants, and read books together. And he has, thank God, pre-digested books that he has read with ease that would never even occur to us to tackle, and he feeds them to us with graphics and all, and it's such a generous thing to do. And I so adore and appreciate KEPHRI Scarabuss. Thank you for joining us, KEPHRI Scarabuss. We appreciate your being here today, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's fun to be here. Thank you.
Oh, I love talking to you.
Me too.
I always love your perspective on pretty much everything.
KEPHRI is someone that we turn to when we do our tarot card reading sessions. We'll often kind of take a pass at the interpretations at a mundane kind of day-to-day level, regular life kind of 3D level, and then he'll take it to some other levels about how it works internally, how things are working on other planes, and it's connected with the Kabbalistic tree of life. I believe he's working on a book that is going to share that with the Swedish public. I'm looking forward to that. So I'm teasing it way in advance, KEPHRI. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, no, I don't
Because
mind.
it feeds a need in the market, because so much is only available in English. And so there's a lot that he has synthesized, because when honestly, in these sessions, we're in here, and sorry to talk about you behind your back or in front of your face,
No
KEPHRI,
problem.
but
No problem, Alice.
here's how it works. Like, we're like, what book is that? And he like says it's this book, and it says da, 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 da. Or somebody says, well, I heard about this book and it says such and such. He's like, yes, I read that book. And we're like, yes, of course you did, and thank God you did. And so he brings what that is, because he is so prodigious and so amazing in that way. And I was thinking about that word because it's just like there's so much, but it's also that he's a prodigy. So were you also, if you don't mind my asking, were you also a child prodigy?
Yes, I think I was like that, Alison, but development, esoterical development has come at different times in my life, actually. And when I was a child, I probably did not understand it fully, and I had quite a tricky upbringing. I didn't have an unlucky childhood and so on, but I had a tricky one because I didn't understood these powers, or what you should call it, or these tools, or what it is. I had it, I realize now, but I didn't understand it. And as a child, I felt a tremendous fear of things. I could feel a fear that I was shaking in my whole body. And they asked me, but what are you afraid of? And I couldn't explain, or nobody could understand, because I said, oh, I am afraid of the nothingness, because the
Mm.
nothingness is nothing, but still it is something. And I was totally devastated by this thought that if nothing is nothing, then it is something, because I can think about it. And what is it? And that started when I was able to think for myself at 4 years old, or 5 years old, or something. And today I know that this is one of the highest points in the Kabbalistic tree of life, actually,
Right.
because this is the Eins of Aur, behind the highest energy center, where there is nothing and everything, and there is something that is the result of them. But
Yeah.
as a 4 year old, I couldn't understand it,
Most
actually.
of us at 40, that's gonna make us collapse from ego death, you know? I
Yeah,
can't imagine what that is like to contact us as a small child.
Hmm. What
yeah.
was there a
You know,
certain?
Mike, you were an unusual small child, and so was I, but I don't think any of us was in the Ein Sof Aur, to be honest with you,
No,
Kefri.
but
So,
I didn't understood it
at
at
least
that
if we
time.
knew, you know?
Yeah. But was there something in particular that, and I have, it's kind of a two-part question. At
Yeah.
what age were you when you finally had this realization, or that you accepted it and stepped into it? So what age about were you? And I guess what changed your perspective also? Was
I
there something in
I
particular that
I
happened that made you
I
really aware?
I had to accept it, actually. It was there all the time, but I think I began to understood it when I was a bit more older, about 15 years or something,
Okay.
I would think. But there was another thing. I was always interested of card magic and stage magic, and
Mhm.
later on it got over to mentalism and mental magic, as it can be called. And
Can you
to
explain what that is? What is mental magic? Just in 2 or 3 sentences.
mental magic is, I can start with mentalism. Mentalism is when you use psychological principles, basically, to make it look like you have a gift, to show that there is a magic in life, actually,
Yeah.
even if
It's literal reading
yeah,
something. Yeah,
yeah, it
right?
is. And mental magic is more when you use more stage magic to conduct the same phenomena, so to say.
Thank you.
It's you're welcome, Alison. It's basically very near to each other, but for a mentalist and a magician, a stage magician, it's completely different things, actually.
Right, because it's purely psychological, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
But I spent years being ashamed of myself, because I felt, how can I be serious when I do tarot readings, and then I have this magical side with a mentalism, actually. How can I be serious when people know I fake it, actually? And then suddenly one day it it came to me, but this is the same thing. it's looking at the same source in two different ways, actually.
Did you
Because
feel? Did you have a
But
bit
you
of?
have to, what's the ethical standard? That's the
yeah,
that's
yeah,
ultimately
yeah,
that's the test, but
yeah,
then that's the
yeah,
question, to
Right,
me.
yeah,
and
Sorry,
what's
Mike, I was
this is
just,
what I wanted to ask is,
yeah.
what did you have a bit of when you were coming into this? Did you
yeah.
at first feel like you had imposter syndrome in a way?
Yeah, it could have been. I could have felt, but I felt it more that I can't go on doing the mentalist thing when I can do it for real, so to speak.
Yeah, right,
That,
right,
that was what I was feeling. And then also in that type of community, it was more that, oh, we show this and we can do readings and everything, but we don't believe in it because people are shut-eyed people.
right.
They are silly believing in this. And that didn't resonate with me, actually, because I felt, but there is something that we can call traditionality here. We can call it traditional tarot readings, for example, and they are for real because they come from inside, and they could be the divinations, actually coming from something higher.
Right.
So
I think
that's
that's one of the double-edged swords of tarot and of any kind of
yeah,
a medium, is because you're dealing with an interior psychological process, so the dangers of you're getting involved in, like, delusion,
yeah,
deception, projection, what a
yeah, yeah,
loss of logical connection.
yeah,
Right,
All that
right,
kind of
that
stuff.
makes sense. Yeah,
Very high. But on the other hand, you want to contact the interior sources, and so you're constantly kind of on this edge of, what's real, what's not real, and that's a challenge. And it's interesting that we chatted a little in our Kabbalistic studies that, and this is, I'm hearing this third, fourth, fifth hand. This is kind of the lore around Kabbalah that I have heard, is that the law was that you had to, like, be 40 years old and a man, and in order to do this. And but what that meant was that you would have had a family, had a job, held down the fort, responsibly raised kids, whatever it is that people accomplish by age 40, kind of thing, in that role, is how solid and anchored, to use a term that we've used before, in the world you have to be to then start questioning what's on the other side of the membrane and the ceiling and the
yeah,
insides. and
yeah,
and because it
yeah,
if you, I suppose you could go crazy, or you could just flip out like a 4-year-old child would do,
yeah,
or like anyone might do who contacts, some crazy energies without having a good, solid sense of themselves to
yeah.
come back to, or something. I imagine from my limited experiences, but you've had vaster experiences in this department than I have. So hats off to you for surviving until now.
thank you,
Yay. I'm
thank
glad
you,
I'm glad you
thank
gave
you.
up on any of the manipulative arts, I hope, because we interact a lot and
Yeah.
I hope not to be manipulated. And
Yeah,
so,
no, no. But I still can be very interested about that type of art because it is using psychological and mathematical principles, and those are a part of life. And many of those principles are miracles in themselves if you can see them for what they are. And I can enjoy myself for hours looking at different mathematical principles uh, 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 doing things with an ordinary deck of cards, actually, and see what is happening, and that there is a principle behind it that I can't see, but definitely it functions everything every time I do it, actually.
So
And
it
that is,
sounds like you operate from both the left and the right.
yeah, yeah,
You,
yeah.
it's a
I think I do, and I think it's a sort of a balance, actually, that has always been there without me having seen it. That it has come from two sides, actually.
I was just about to ask, is does one override the other? But you just answered that question. They
Yeah.
meet in the middle, huh?
It could be, actually, it can be good to know a bit of cold reading if you get a reading where you are stuck, actually,
Mm.
because the person you read from perhaps feels better if they can go from the reading with a sort of a feeling that or it doesn't resonated with me, but perhaps it was good after all, and I can think about it and so on. That could be good, I think. So
So
to know,
you can take the abstract
yeah,
and then
yeah,
process it
yeah,
with the
yeah,
sort of with the left brain, right?
yeah, yeah. So I think
You
that,
mentioned some mathematical principles, and you've shown me some of your work that you've done with using fractals and putting
yeah,
equations
yeah,
into
yeah,
things, and that has been
yeah,
quite interesting. I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind. Let me just try
yeah.
and see if I can share one or two of
The
these.
one I did for you, yeah.
Can you see this one?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
And that was also something that was coming to me when I understood that this is a mathematical picture, actually.
it's
This is an
beautiful.
equation. And when I saw that, oh, I can tweak the equations actually, but I can do it more as a sort of a reading, actually. I can do it for a person and it will resonate with the person.
So do you incorporate this when you're doing tarot readings?
Sometimes I do, but I have done it mostly for friends actually, and all of them are different actually, and they are
Beautiful.
different times in people's life also. So that's
There's a couple others that I wanted just to show
Interesting.
because they're really quite striking,
I've never heard
and
anyone do this before.
one of the things that was remarkable for me, and I downloaded the article to reread it, was back from Whole Life Monthly or I forget there was a Gnosis magazine that was concurrent with Whole Life,
yeah,
Times. Was that Whole Life? Anyway, it was about fractals, and they basically were talking about setting these mathematical equations into motion on these computers, and they would just let them run for like days and weeks. And after a
mm,
while, the image patterns that came up started to look like trees and take life and look
mm,
like life forms and things like that. And I thought, well, wouldn't that make sense then for a universe or whatever that you have these patterns that are set into motion? And it really was very relaxing as a God concept to me to think that that was just that we're and go it's going back to Carolyn Miss, it's a big impersonal universe. We take it personally, but it's just happening.
Right.
mm,
It's just the consequences of the equation kind of thing, and a lot of hubris to think I can say that this is what the universe is. But what came to mind when she was saying that was very much that, and the fractals were really a key to my thinking, in my opinion, more broadly.
Mm.
Um, and then let's just see if we can find another one that Magnus had done with just the fractal concept, which is quite spectacular. All the sacred geometry.
Yeah.
yeah,
Isn't
It
that
almost looks like the
fascinating?
Eiffel Tower as well.
Oh, yeah, very much with those curves and, in Paris, everything is as square and square, and all of a sudden you see this sweep, it's, like, so spectacular. Yeah, and then one more.
Ooh, nice.
Can we see that one? Did it just
yeah. That
change the
one,
image?
yeah.
Another gorgeous one there. Yeah, isn't that great?
I love the contrast between that bright fuchsia and the orange, and then you have these drabbed out, almost tertiary greens in there, which the balance of it is super. Like I would never think to put those colors together.
But they are part of an equation, I suppose. I
Yeah.
don't know. You didn't choose
Yeah.
the co did you choose the colors? How did that I don't
No,
know how that
no,
all
I
worked.
didn't. I didn't.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
that's
it's
what I mean.
gorgeous.
I would never just,
I choose.
I would
Yeah.
never think to pair those
No,
together.
no, I choose the numbers actually.
That's
Well, thank you.
wild.
I hope you don't mind my sharing those because I think they're
No,
so
no,
beautiful.
no problem, Alice. No
Thank you,
problem.
because there's a lot of art that you have done that I don't think that you have the opportunity to share with people, so wanna
No.
put it out there for you.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
so as a child, you were prodigious and
Yeah,
sensitive, and you learned
yeah,
magic, and then you were a young man, and you're working your way through life. What kind of work
yeah.
did you do in your, like, 20s and 30s?
I was studying at the university, and I was coming out as a systems analyst actually, and I got to work. My first work I got in the end of the 80s, actually, and it was for the State Department in my country.
Okay.
And it was as a computer expert, you can
That
say.
was your first job?
Yeah, it was my first
I
job.
told you, he's deep. He's deep.
And
I thought I
and
was an overachiever.
this is connected also to I have done a lot of business travels in my work. Actually, I've not done so much traveling for vacations and so on, but I have done it in my work. And always when I have been somewhere and being on a business travel, there has also happened something in my esoterical development, if you can call it
Mm.
that way. And my first business travel was to New York, actually, and it was in the end of the 80s. And I returned from New York with a crystal ball, 3 tarot decks, and a very special book about origami. Uh,
What,
yeah,
so how did that come together when you made this trip?
I found it on different places. The crystal ball I wanted, actually, but the tarot deck I hadn't thought about especially much. But I had a book at that time, a mentalist book, that where you could do magic with tarot cards, actually, and that sounded very interesting for me. And I got home with those 3 tarot decks, actually, and I started to do stage magic with the cards, and I burnt myself
Interesting.
You
by
burned
the.
yourself?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, literally burned your skin
yeah, actually,
or burned your psyche?
yeah, my psyche.
Oh,
But I felt that I can't do this. This is so much more. There is something in hide here. I
Mm.
can't do this. I can't do it as a simple card trick because it isn't. And
So your
that,
approach, really quick, your approach to
yeah,
this was, just because I'm trying to understand this,
yeah.
was basically, oh, how can I, was very technical, and
Mhm.
then the esotericism came in after?
The esotericism was there all the time, but it wasn't formalized until that moment, actually.
Interesting. So it
And
was very black and white for you with
yeah,
the initial approach to it, right?
yeah, I had this feeling that universe and the reality is magical in a way, but then there are reality, and reality is where we are, and that is the most important thing. But here something changed, actually, I believe, because there was like, here is something that you can't use in the way you have thought of using it, and
Oh.
that also lighted my interest to see what is this. And that was the moment I started exploring the tarot cards, actually. And
How old are you?
at that time things started to happen, actually. It was like it was lying in wait for me, actually, to
Mm.
develop. And at that time I found a tarot course, and I found in some years I found a lot of people that was into this. And suddenly we had a group, actually, and suddenly we got an offer to work for charity, and we started to work for charity at local fairs, and we did readings there, actually, and we did that for about uh, 8 years. Every year in the summer,
Oh,
actually, we did
wow.
it.
Did
And
it freak you out when you started discovering this stuff about you?
no,
Was it
no, no,
startling or
no,
intimidating?
no, because this is also the thing. I think the magic, the stage magic, was there since younger years to
Mm.
take away the fear gradually, actually. Because,
Interesting.
To give you a sense of control over it?
yeah, yeah,
Huh.
because I've never been afraid of it, actually. Never.
Huh. I have to agree. I feel similar in my own
Yeah,
experience with
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's also interesting. This also comes in these experiences is timed to my Saturnus return, actually.
Oh,
The
what's that, 28?
Saturnus return. Yeah.
Your
Mm,
Saturn
And
return, is that after
yeah,
4 cycles or yeah?
yeah. And
yeah,
the interesting thing is I am now in my second Saturn
I was
return.
just about to
And
ask.
and it starts again because it started when we formed the group during the pandemic and so on,
Oh,
Alison.
wow.
And that was the start of my second Saturn return
Oh,
also.
wow.
So
How,
that's
okay,
I'm late
just
to the game. This is like, I'm past that.
I've got
Going through it in a different way.
my in a bit. Yeah, what is that like having been aware? It sounds like you were aware of your first Saturn return. What was
I didn't understand it at that time, actually,
Well,
ah
and
fully.
I don't understand what it is either. So in the interest of all of us knowing what we're talking about, in 4 sentences, what's a Saturn return?
But
Somebody. Oh,
I it's when the planet Saturn comes back to the position in your horoscope, native horoscope, where it was when you was born,
and
actually.
it
and what
takes
is the impact of Saturn? What is the Saturn
It
influence for
takes
those who don't know?
it's the discipline of life and also the way of life, actually,
Mhm.
the path of life, actually.
I feel with Saturn, with my experience, when Saturn shows up, you know, in the
Mm.
sky and in my charts and everything, I feel like Saturn, what it does, the only way that I picture it is it's like you have a basket full of things. All of your life stuff is in this basket, and Saturn comes by and just picks it up and kicks it, and
Yeah.
it just goes everywhere, and you're left to pick up all these pieces, but you can't put them back together. It's like you can't do new things the old way,
No.
if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a wonderful analogy.
Yeah.
That will stay with
Yeah.
me
It is.
forever. Wow.
It is.
it really that's the way that I made sense of it, because my Saturn return, the first one, I haven't gone through the second one yet, and what is that, probably another 10 years or so.
To
But yeah,
56, 28 and 56, like that.
yeah, so nine more years. But yeah, it was really confusing to me, but it really coincided with well, like when we were talking in earlier discussions, leaving that shop that I was with for so long, and opening my own thing and shifting into all this other stuff. Like, it was all these things that sorry about that plane, all of these things that were very familiar to me, but I couldn't put them back together the way that I knew. And it was a friend of mine that said, you're trying to do new things the old way, and that's not possible. You have to do new things a new way. And that's when I had that picture of literally me sitting here with my life basket with all my stuff in it, and here comes Saturn, rips it out of my hands and just kicks it all the way out, and everything just went flying everywhere. And I was recognizing all the pieces, but they weren't fitting together the way that they did. And so that's also why I think that, like, Saturn, and I kind of, I don't know how this is going to come out, but I feel like Saturn has a dark energy to it.
Yeah. It
Very,
does.
like, it's
Oh, I
complete.
think so. I think that's a lot what a lot of
Yeah.
people fear about
Yeah.
Saturn. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. It has the dark color, the black color.
Yes. Mm.
Doesn't Saturn eat his own children in
Yeah.
mythology
Yes,
as
Yeah.
well?
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
And
Saturn's got a lot
it
to own up
for
to.
it forces you actually to do the things you came here to do, actually, I
that's a
believe.
good way to put that. Whether you want to or
Yeah.
not, and whether
Yeah.
you accept it or not, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And that's
If
what I mean about it, Saturn just taking that
yeah.
basket of life
Yeah.
stuff and just
Yeah.
chucking it, you know?
Yeah. And if you doesn't accept it, it will be very hard, actually, because
Very.
it will be thrown at you.
Hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
you have
So that
you
was
have
their first Saturn return, and now you're in your second Saturn
yeah.
return. Were there any people that were influential for your
It was
progress and development over the
it
years?
was the first esoteric or the tarot and astrology group, the people I was working with at that time at
That you did
the
those charity
fair.
events with? Uh-huh.
Yeah, but they were different from the people I meet today, and you can count yourself into those, because those people that I met at that time was not interested to be in reality. They wanted to be above reality because they
Above
Oh,
couldn't
reality.
sure,
they
Oh,
'cause I
couldn't
feel
they couldn't cope with reality. And I had I had a profession, and I had a work and everything, and they choose to not have that. And I thought that, oh, this is the way you should live. And I learned the hard way that this is not the way you should live, actually, because
well, I feel
if
like
you,
you're too perceptive to live in an illusionary world,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
No, for real, a lot of that's
I'd
where
like to
everybody
say you're too
is,
perceptive to live in the
like,
regular world, but, you
right?
gotta make a balance, right?
yeah,
Right, right, right. But I've just everything is such an illusion. It goes to, with
yeah,
everything, and I feel like you
yeah,
don't just knowing you as much, you know, as much as I do,
yeah,
I feel like you and I could speak the same for myself where I just you can't you know too much. You're too I don't want to say you know too much. It sounds so arrogant.
Just
Your
speak your mind.
your perception is so razor sharp that you even if you want to kind of filter things through these illusions, you
mm,
can't.
oh,
Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
makes very much sense. Yeah,
I find that there's a big disconnect with
yeah, yeah,
me and sort of parts of the world and people
yeah,
because
yeah,
they're so wrapped up in these illusions, and I just
yeah,
see through
yeah,
them.
yeah.
So
And
what
they think,
what helps you to cut through illusion and deal with the regular world, Kefri? How is it that you are able to do what those other folks
I,
weren't able to
I,
do, like
I,
hold down a high level
I,
job
I,
and still study?
I try to balance it, and be in reality at the same time as I am in my esoterical interest world, actually, and combine them. And I have learned that I spent years thinking that, oh, I don't use the esoterical tools when I am in my daily work and so on. And then I started to think, but I do, because I don't do anything else but readings, actually,
uh,
answering questions and everything. And sometimes I don't know where the answers come from, actually,
and that's
honestly.
what I mean
But
about
everybody comes to you for an answer, right?
Yeah, yeah,
that was my point that I was trying to make is that you don't have that choice. It's just
no, no,
it
yeah,
is
yeah.
you. It's part of you.
Yeah, and it's basically balancing people as I see it today, balancing people and organizations, people in organizations, actually, to get the organization to move forward, actually. So
Mm.
that's how I look at it today, actually. And still, I never seem to come around to work with my esoterical things more. And I sometimes during my life I have wanted that, actually, to work with it more. But then I also think about that first group that they had they had released them totally from reality, actually, and I
Mm.
don't want that either, actually. And the interesting thing is, nobody nobody of them is here now, because they have deceased. All of them are deceased, actually, and it is like
Really?
going from one period into another period, actually.
Wow. Talk about a definitive ending right
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Were
but
they
that's
were
that.
they were you all of a similar age?
No, we
Oh,
was of different age, and it was also interesting because I learned a lot from them, and they learned a lot from me. So there was some form of transmission. And one of the ladies, she taught me astrology, actually, because I never, I never I never thought I could learn astrology, actually, and
Why?
she taught it to me.
Why did you think that you couldn't?
Because it was too complicated, I thought.
Oh my God, talk about selling yourself short. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all.
You're
I
like
mean,
Mr. Brilliant. You can have, excuse me.
Thank you. But I don't.
Sometimes we don't see ourselves very clearly, do
No,
we?
no, we don't. We don't. We don't. And I have never had anything to relate back to, actually, because I'm the only child also during all my childhood, and there has not been any references, and I think that has something to do with it also. But it has also given me a total freedom to explore what I want to explore.
Yeah, well, and I can say that that's been one of the huge blessings of having our little group that formed in COVID,
Yeah.
was just having a bunch of little weird motley, it's just a motley crew of
mm,
like-minded folks around the world,
Yeah.
and we can talk politics, and we can play with our cards, and we can help each other with our considerations and blah, 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 and it's a miracle to have found each other in a lot of ways. If you're watching it, it's a miracle you found us. Everybody.
Yeah, and I was actually guided to find you.
I was
Uh,
wondering how you
yeah,
knew,
yeah.
Brian, because I knew
That
Brian because
no,
I went
no,
to.
I didn't know anything about that. But I saw many years ago, when I was a child, I saw documentary on Discovery on C.G. Jung, actually.
Okay.
Uh, and
On
in it,
Carl Gustav
yeah,
Jung,
on
the
Carl
psychotherapist.
Gustav Jung,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
oh, Carl Jung.
and
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that
exactly, thank you.
and in that documentary was Dr. and Bishop Stefan Heller of the Ecclesia Gnostica. And he was just in it because it was about C.G. Jung and everything. They didn't present him any more than that. And they asked him why the world was looking like it was during the 30s when he grew up and everything. Uh, and he said that I have found the answer now because it was a crack in the universe at that time.
Oh, that's
And
right.
I remember that one. I remember his Hungarian pronunciation of that and so
Yeah,
on.
that was in
And
the 70s, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it was. Yeah. And then during the pandemic, the Ecclesia Gnostica started to have things on YouTube, actually. And
Mhm.
I heard his voice, and I thought,
Stefan's voice.
yeah, Stefan's voice. And I in the YouTube in one lecture, when I looked at it, and I thought, oh, this is the same person. This was
Mm.
interesting. And then I started to explore it, and then I saw, oh, they have lectures, they have recordings, and I started to buy them, actually, and listen to them. And then Brian invited me to the tarot group, actually. That was the way it was happening.
Do you know Alan Watts?
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
who he
What
is.
do you
Yeah.
I'm curious, what do you think about Alan Watts?
I think he's very mysterious, and I think it's very interesting to listen to him because
And
he also has that mix that I have found is so good between the spirituality
mhm,
and a sort of a divine mind at the same time, and balancing it also, and
mhm.
teaching it to people, actually. So I get a lot from Alan Watts when I listen to him,
I'm
actually.
gonna
Same.
I'm gonna
I
I'm
could
gonna
s
put up a little book here. Oh, excuse me, Mike.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was just gonna say, I
I'm
could
gonna put up a
see
book here. This is just, one of the books
Yeah,
that, Stefan Heller
yeah,
Oh, okay.
that KEPHRI was mentioning, and
I
he
don't know
is
him.
the bishop in, well, you maybe have seen the Theosophical Society on Beechwood,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
and
Yes.
he's been the head of the Theosophical Society for 100 years
Oh,
here
that's
in
him?
LA, and this is a book on
Oh,
tarot, which has also been republished as
mhm,
oh,
this book
wow. Yeah.
here,
'Cause I
which
go
is
to
a really nice
go
mix
ahead.
of Kabbalah
yeah,
and then one final one, hang on, there's one that he wrote about politics,
yeah,
and I'm not finding it, and it's called Freedom.
yeah.
And KEPHRI, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's in very close to Allison and I, there's a place. Oh, what's that one?
If Freedom Alchemy for a Voluntary Society.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And there's some people with the is that the Romanian flag, I think there, right? Or is
oh,
that maybe that's
which
I'm
one?
not sure, but it's the Berlin Wall.
Mm.
Anyway, thank you. Excuse me, go ahead.
He's the one who started PRS, the Philosophical Research Society. That's who he is.
No, that's Manly Hall.
Oh, I'm getting them confused.
Yeah.
That's this guy
Oh,
here, Secret Teachings of All Ages here, Manly Hall.
There you
This is
go.
a honkin' book, which I have not read, but I bought out of obligation, and this is all my road to hell, my good intentions. Some of them I've read, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah,
But when you can buy for big bucks the gorgeous coffee table book that has all the big plates and everything, but this one has it all anyway in an affordable context here.
right.
Yeah.
The Philosophical Research Society. It's this. I don't know if you know anything about it. It's
I know.
where
I
we
know.
live. It's unbelievable. I had never been into the library, and it's his personal library. And you can just go in and my God, I could spend days there.
And then Stefan has lectured there a lot, and it's now been revitalized. Mitch Horowitz has done a lot of stuff over there. Who's the guy now? I forget. He's a professor of Native American religions. I don't know if he's still the head. Anyway, there's a lot of really good stuff happening there.
Yeah, a lot. And you're right. They're really ramping it up the last couple years. And
this is becoming like a living room conversation, isn't it? It's so funny.
And the amazing thing during COVID was that they was going live on YouTube, and they was going also live on Zoom, so you could take their courses actually.
At PRS?
Know that.
Yeah, and of course KEPHRI took them all. Of course he did.
Wow, I'm impressed.
Not all of them, but some of them.
Wow, that's wild.
And you got your first deck of tarot in your 20s, but now how many decks of tarot might you have in your collection, sir?
I think I have 100 or something around that.
And then an oracle decks, maybe another 50 or 60?
No, 100
Okay.
more.
So you have a wonderful collection of stuff because it is all very precious, and I understand. Well, look back there. I got my own little collection of cards. It's growing. Every time you see some more, you're like, ooh, pretty.
Yeah, it's very true. You, Allison, have given me so many beautiful tarot decks.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like
so
them.
many of them, and I do use them all.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I use them all. So thank you again for that.
A pleasure, a pleasure. So KEPHRI, what is it that you foresee doing now? So now you've been doing all these things all these years. We've had the pleasure after COVID and during COVID of studying together. You've given us the great, for example, let me just, I'm going to wave something at you just so you can see the great service that KEPHRI has done. So we have a tarot author and teacher who we all admire. You have his deck, his AI deck, this one here that Marcus Katz, and all these books over here are Marcus Katz books, including, we think, I'm going to cover it up right here, but this honker right here, which is all about tarot and Kabbalah, and it's fabulous and it's wonderful. And thank God, I would never tackle this book, but KEPHRI did. And he made slides, and he made it interactive, and he made it possible for us to comprehend. And I'm so grateful.
In the tarot group?
Thank you.
Oh wow, that's
a Saturday class we have going as an offshoot. It's so fantastic. I so appreciate you.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's mutual.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you. So what do you look forward to now? What are you going to be doing in your as you move toward your third Saturn return, which would be
the first Saturn return was about discovering the tarot cards actually.
Okay.
The second tarot return was about discovering again the tarot card, but connecting them to the Kabbalistic teachings. And I do a lot of that still, and I explore a lot about the Tree of Life and traditional Kabbalistic teachings and Golden Dawn Kabbalistic teachings and so on. And I think I will go on doing that, actually. And I also think that I will look into some of the other disciplines in the esoteric world. Numerology I do from time to time, and sacred geometry I also do. And it comes by the origami also that I do from
Oh,
time
that
to
makes
time.
sense also.
That does make
Makes sense.
sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I'm very intimidated by I'm interested, but I'm super intimidated with the Tree of Life and the different Kabbalah stuff and how it's connected. I see certain things, how they connect, but my mind, it gets overwhelmed when I really start trying to dig into it.
Yeah.
It's very there's a lot to it.
Yeah, it's a fractal.
Yeah, I need to get over.
Oh, explain that. Do you mind?
It's a fractal because if you look at it and you enlarge in your mind something, it will immediately open up and you will see something else in it, actually. And it will never end. It's
Right.
an eternal blueprint of life, actually.
Maybe that's why it's so
Of the
intimidating.
universe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Really? I do. I don't
Yeah.
know what it is. I guess I get this kind of overwhelming sense of intimidation when I, you know, and Alison, you gave me that that sort of plastic sheet with the tree.
Oh
of
yeah,
life.
that thing is fantastic.
It really is, but I just find myself staring
It's
at
totally
it.
intimidating.
It's super intimidating.
This one, right? We got this cheat sheet,
Yeah.
but we find ourselves constantly referring to it. And then there's another one that's really good that Marcus Katz had in one of his decks that is really very convenient. Also,
Oh,
that
interesting.
one
there we
also.
go.
Yeah.
And then
It just blows my mind. I don't know where to start with it.
oh, I was going to tell you one more thing. As long as we're on all these digressions, is that where to start with it is really in the tarot because it done right. I think that there's a way to do tarot, and I certainly admire and respect and appreciate the teachings that Marcus Katz offers because it's always with an eye towards getting there. So how can you bring it back to the most elementary of tarot concepts? And that's what we're aiming to do in the classes that we're bringing out as well, is how can you, anything that you learn is going to be supportive to you and part of the structure that you're building along the future line. You're not going to have to get rid of it because it was a erroneous direction or whatever kind of thing is. And so not that there's any, so I want to also as I say that, I also want to be clear that one of the key things in tarot, at least the way I would approach tarot, is that there are no fixed rules. And that is the biggest misconception, is that you can fix anything when you're talking about something like a fractal that is infinitely larger than you can even conceive. And so, you know, and so it's important to be humble in how you approach it, as well as not try to limit it to your own limited concepts or the limitations of your conceptualizations or something. It's always bigger than you are. And so that's something that, that answers your question also, Mike, why is it so intimidating? Is because I don't think it's ever comprehensible. It's only kind of approachable.
Yeah, and it's a security mechanism inbuilt in it also, because if you try to take it in all at once, you will get crazy, actually.
Really?
Yes.
Do you mean like crazy? Like, well, like we talked about that before, that being 40 to not go crazy with Kabbalah thing? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know where to start.
Well, you can start in our classes that are starting summer 2024.
I love it. I'll be there. Yeah, I really feel, as you guys were saying, that it is going to be a very helpful addition into what I'm already doing. I just like I said, I just sit there and stare at things. And I got the Hermetic deck maybe like 5-6 years ago. They're beautiful, but it is just chock full of, I mean, on one card, it's got so much and everything going on. And I still, like, it's a very intimidating deck. I normally will pull cards from there for altars or sort of kind of inspiration or representations of things. I have never done an actual reading with it. It just kind of scares the hell out of me in a weird,
Well,
way.
maybe what we should do is, I mean, if you do want to join us in these classes that we have, is we can choose a deck and work a little bit with the deck in like in 1 week. We can just do a couple sessions in looking at that deck, and then just have that as a resource within the library for people who want to look at it and who want to, so we can do a little unpacking of the deck as well as do a little playing around with readings of it, and that way at least there will be it can be done in tandem with some other people. We can all kind of figure it out together, at least to the degree that we can, and then capture that for the benefit of anybody who wants to venture into that themselves, or who has that deck and wants to look at that deck. So that would be an interesting resource to provide, is little unpacking and reading sessions with different decks. I know that's available online. Deck unpacking is not uncommon, but we might approach it in a way that's fun, maybe that puts it up like the slides we've been doing or something. I don't want to get in copyright trouble or
I feel like that
anybody's stuff, but it would be fun to do some things.
Well, that deck is just so serious to me.
Yeah.
And then there's other ridiculous decks like gummy bear decks, and so there's all kinds of stuff.
Right, right.
Oh, by
That's
the way, this
a little
deck,
too fluffy for me, but yeah, it's just that there's such. I actually, it feels heavy to me.
Yeah.
This way because you're not playing around like you are with cards.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never got any of all the decks I've actually held in my hand or own. I never have had the same feeling that this radiates.
That hermetic deck?
Yeah.
Well, at some point you'll dig into it, apparently. Yeah, that's what it seems like to
from
me.
my other decks.
Wow.
I'm not joking. I keep it separate in a different drawer, but all by itself. I don't know what it is.
When you're ready to get rid of your own isolation, you will unisolate that deck.
All right, this sounds great. I just need to hold my hand with
This thing. I just wanted to mention, because we heard about the story of Magnus's childhood and that no thingness, and the Hierophant card, your little card in this deck, is called no thingness.
Oh, really?
I think is this the Osho? I'm looking for the Osho tarot.
No, that's not the Osho tarot. That was the Golden Dawn.
All right, give me a moment. I'll find the Osho.
Yeah, of course.
And when again, KEPHRI, when did you start working with the Kabbalah or this?
I started to look at there it is.
Okay.
I started to look at the Kabbalah already the first Saturn return, but I didn't understood it at that time actually.
When did it click for you?
It clicked actually during the pandemic, during our coming together in this tarot magic circle actually. And then it took form, and then I started to see things I hadn't seen before, and I got more and more interested, and I got more and more books, and I got more and more materials, and I got more and more and more, and I learned more and more and more, and I still do.
And I'm telling you, when this guy has time off work, he can get a lot done.
I don't think so myself, but
because you are a prodigy, and it wasn't up to your prodigious standards. But all of us are like in the dust, going, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, check it out. So this is that Hierophant card.
It's literally just a black square
that says no thingness.
How? What?
Yeah, hang on.
That's wild. What is that? What does that even mean? What does that say?
Well, I think what our little favorite tarot reader, one of my favorite tarot readers, she talks about it's the origin of things in the nothingness, or the origin of things in the shunyata. And I think that the Hierophant is someone who has mastered the ability to kind of empty the mind and let it be filled with something else. And so that I think is what they're getting at with this. But I do like.
And sort of being comfortable.
I do like this Osho deck. I really like the back design more than anything.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Anyway, all these decks are very aesthetic things. What else should we talk about, Kefri, in your interesting life? I'm so glad that we have
I guess,
accompanied your
uh,
Saturn return and gotten you,
yeah, and in all
thing.
this also we have this that I call the Egyptian vibration also, that is connected to tarot also. I feel that has come up in my life from time to time, the interest for Egypt and looking at Egypt and everything, and
Well,
see
that's an
all the
emblem that you wear, and it is your moniker. I mean, the
yeah,
scarab
yeah,
and you have a
Oh
scarab,
yeah.
yeah.
emblem there. You've
Yeah,
inspired me
I
to
have
get
a
that
small I
scarab
have a
into some
small
things.
I have a small one around my neck,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Uh-huh.
That's
And
so
so
that's
what is
your
the significance? Because the scarab rolls the he's a dung
Uh,
beetle, and he rolls the little
yeah,
ball, but
yeah,
that's for his
but
children, right?
he is actually the protector of life. He is the
right.
protector of the transmission between life and death. He
Well,
is
he
the
doesn't he
protector.
represent eternal life, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah, he
scarab,
does. He does.
yes.
He does, and
Yeah.
he's a sort of a protector.
Right.
That's and he has always been with me actually since I
Mm.
discovered him actually. And I've never I just accepted it, and I felt that, oh, this is my signum, and so it is.
And
How
occasionally,
interesting.
even up in Stockholm, you have a scarab that'll, like, show up in your kitchen. Didn't you have one show up in your
Yeah,
kitchen
yeah, yeah,
recently?
yeah.
Oh,
And that's
wow.
not very common in the Nordic climes, is it?
Oh.
No, they show up from time to time actually, and then I understand that something is going to happen, or there is something that is coming,
Hmm.
or something.
Wow.
So
And it's also interesting, all the business travel I have done, there is often a scarab showing up, but it's not the animal, the scarab, it's the name, the scarab. It could be a coffee shop, it could be a bookshop, it could
oh,
be
interesting.
something, and there's always a scarab there.
Interesting,
Wow.
interesting. You had
Always.
some dealings as a representative to the EU, and so you are no slouch
Yeah.
when it comes to the living in the regular world, you know?
Wow.
So it's so interesting to have far-ranging spiritual and wild woo-woo conversations with people who, like, hold it down in a big way and are responsible for a lot of worldly, things, and so
it's
it's
yeah,
possible to do. You don't have to fall apart
it's
and fly away.
it's interesting because I've always been taken into those types of organizations. I've never been a part of them actually. I've never felt like I've been a part of them, but I've been there and I have done some form of mission or something, and I've also seen the magic or the mysticism that is in those types of organizations,
Oh,
because
tell us more, tell us more.
Yeah.
there is a special energy there, and I don't know if it is the organization or what it is. And for example, I was in a project that was a EU project about certain things, and they put meetings of in different places, mainly in Europe, of course, and there was always something esoterical that was connected to the place where the meeting was going on, and it wasn't awaited from the beginning actually. And I
Hmm.
discovered the things in different towns. Oh, is that here? Oh, is that? Oh, and that started also sort of a spin-off effect in me. I want to learn more about it. So
Hmm.
that's and I don't know how those meetings was placed in those towns, and it wasn't especially, all of them wasn't especially well known towns actually.
Hmm.
So
So
that's
soon we'll be announcing our tour of, European esoteric, small towns that you wouldn't necessarily think were that important.
no, yeah, yeah,
It's a big title to fit on a small brochure, but we're gonna do it, you know?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
wild that you can't.
Oh, we're having broadband issues, we're having
yeah. We
Wi-Fi
have.
issues, it's such a sad thing, and we'll try and get Mike back in a moment. So,
Mm.
what do you see as, the next kind of, time upcoming for you? Will you be writing books? Will you be doing fractal art? Will you be doing
I
it all?
hope I will do something of it. I don't know what I will do actually
Mhm.
for the moment, and I would also like to work more with the tarot cards also actually, but I don't know how I should work with them today actually.
Okay.
That's
Well, since you have so responsible a day job, and we're not using this interview to hawk any of your wares or anything like
no
that, we just
problem.
have the
No problem.
pleasure
No
of
problem.
inviting you to be a guest lecturer or a guest on our tarot studies as we get our little academy going. Because I'm sure that
Yeah.
people would be thrilled to have you drop in every once in a while and give us some informed interesting commentary. For those of you who haven't seen any of the other videos, go check out the Tarot Flow Show videos where KEPHRI often will give some commentary and enlightenment and really augment and give extra dimension to the readings and psychological explorations that we do with people when we play with cards on the Tarot Flow Show. I want to thank you, KEPHRI, for being here today on this interview. I appreciate your sharing a very internal process that isn't necessarily respected in a lot of the world, but it's respected here and among friends. And I appreciate your being
Yeah.
willing to put it out
Yeah.
there for those friends who are watching and exploring our YouTube channel. Mike, any final words for KEPHRI? Any questions that you have before we say bye-bye?
Do you have a favorite tarot deck?
I have several actually, but for the moment it is the Rider-Waite-Smith actually, because there is so much in hide in that deck actually. It looks very basic, but it isn't,
Right.
because it hides a lot. Many people thinks it's the Aleister Crowley's top deck that is the deck that has all the mysteries and so on, but
Right.
that deck has some of it, I think, but the Rider-Waite-Smith has even more of it, I think. And then I like the Handley Tarot also, the Herman Handley Tarot. I used that when I was working at the fairs, actually, because it's
Okay.
That's a beautiful deck. It's very watercolor looking to me.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that one.
it's a sort of a thought deck actually, but it is in a completely different form of art.
Oh, got it. I always like to know what
Yeah.
people's favorite deck is, or what
Yeah.
what's this one connected to, or they feel the connection with.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Thank you for answering that question.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Are you available if people want to do private readings?
Maybe.
If you choose to make yourself available, let me know. We can put that
Yeah,
information in
I
the
will.
program notes, and
I
we
will.
can indicate
I
whether
will.
you're available or not at any given time. So,
I will.
okay.
Thank you, Alison.
Because it's a very special and important experience to get that perspective. It's nice to have it recorded so that you can think back on it and listen to it again. It's all quite but for those people who read, it's not necessarily something that you sell. It's more something that you do as a gift. And so it's hard to say whether you can just kind of say, yeah, ring me up. And so anyway, if you're of a mind to do that, or if you're of a season to be doing that, we can find out. We'll look in the program notes and find that out. I thank you again for being here, Mike Bonner. I thank you for joining us and for lending yourself and your great thinking and your perspective. And KEPHRI Scarabuus, thank you for joining us on Follow Your Road. Everyone, I hope you'll check out AlisonPickering.com to see what offers are up in terms of joining the Tarot Flow Academy, the Follow Your Road coaching, any of the things that we have. We have some travel opportunities. We have some classes and practice spaces and all kinds of things starting summer 2024. So we look forward to seeing everybody there. And thank you for joining us. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.